Republican State Representative Tony Dale from Cedar Park back on the show with us, but the first time since the end of the session. Good to see you.
Nice to see you too.
This was the second time around for you as far as a full session. How different was the second experience from the first?
Well, you know, first time you're just trying to learn what you're doing, and so we kind of got that squared away first time, and we're able to introduce more bills and get a lot more legislation passed, and it was a much more productive session for us.
Yeah, in fact, kind of doing a little bit of math, compared to what was actually passed out of the legislature to the governor, you and your bills really had a high success rate, right? I mean, close to 50%, not quite, but almost 50% of your bills made it to the governor?
Yeah, we got about 48% of the bills that we introduced through to the governor, most of them as our own bills, and in a couple cases we had our legislation put into another piece of legislation to get that through, so we're pretty pleased with our high productivity rate.
Let's talk big picture first, and then I want to single in on a couple of the bills, at least two or three of your bills in particular. But I know you were there, I think, for the tax cut signing by the governor. That's now into law. We've got property tax relief and the business franchise tax cut by 25%. Of course, the first part has to go to voters, but definitely the 25% that kicks in. Right. What do you think is going to have the biggest effect for whether it's your district or the state in general in terms of the tax relief package?
Well, I think when you put it all together, $4 billion in tax relief is a big number, and there was also an additional bill that reduced fees that professionals have to pay, whether they be realtors or lawyers, architects, things like that. So we gave a good chunk of tax relief back to Texans, which is, I think, important to do. It seems to me that the business tax cut will be very beneficial to all Texans, whether you own a business or not, because when we signed the bill yesterday, it was at AMD, which is one of the largest franchise taxpayers in the state of Texas. And for them to keep 25% of that tax, they're going to be able to reinvest it, you know, maybe hire more people, whatever the case may be. It's a lot of money.
The budget itself, were you pleased with the process? I mean, I know that there were those who voted for it but said, you know, gosh, I wish we had spent more on whether it was education or any other infrastructure. But did you like the way the balance was to give some tax cuts, but also you feel like the needs were met?
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at the budget, any bill we pass is a compromise. So in the budget, it's a take it or leave it in the end. And I certainly voted for it, as did most members of the Republican caucus in the legislature. But yeah, I mean, I'd like to have seen more money go to one of my school districts, of course, right? But when it comes to education, you know, it was the #1 budget priority. We put $78.4 billion towards education, which is pretty astounding. And then we also put $77 billion towards health and human services. Now, those two things alone take up 74% of the total budget. So when you're done, there's not much left over for the other priorities. They really suck up all the oxygen. But overall, you know, we put a lot more money towards education for the second session in a row. Put billions of dollars towards transportation. TxDOT's budget is $23 billion. So, you know, we're taking care of the core functions and able to give tax relief. It's a good deal.
Let's look at some of those bills of yours that did make it to the governor. And a lot of the ones that were a priority for you dealt with helping victims. For example, online predators, right? Talk about that one.
Right. Well, we had folks that came to us that said that their minor children were being solicited online, and they went to the police and to the district attorney to try and get help, and they were unable to get help because the law we had in place in Texas had previously been overturned. So we took that challenge on, and we were able to get a bill passed through that makes it illegal for adults to solicit minors online for illicit sexual purposes. I mean, it sounds logical, and it's shocking that we had this gap in our law.
It's kind of fixing something that people didn't realize there was this issue here, except for the victims themselves.
That's right. We had a court case that overturned the old law, but we were able to get that put back in place. And, you know, when I look at it, I said, this is the kind of thing that really helps people, and it makes me feel like we accomplished something quite good.
What else in this area of trying to help victims that made it to the governor?
Right, another bill that we're real proud of is House Bill 1446, which makes sure that people that are victims of rape do not have to pay medical bills. Sometimes, in today's environment, they'll go to the hospital to get the forensic kit done to collect evidence, and then they can receive a bill in the mail for over $1,000 sometimes. It's just outrageous, and it victimizes the person twice. So we made sure that the Crime Victims Fund can compensate those people so that when they're helping law enforcement collect evidence, they're not going to be charged for that.
I know another one that I remember because we reported on it as the session progressed here was E-Verify. Talk about the importance of that one. This deals with state contracts, correct?
This deals with state agencies.
Agencies.
So E-Verify is the federal program that Homeland Security runs to make sure that people that are applying for jobs are legal to work, whether they be a U.S. citizen or have legal status in the United States. And so the bill that Senator Schwertner and I passed for the first time in Texas history puts E-Verify down to the state level and requiring state agencies and universities to use E-Verify to ensure that people we're hiring have a legal work status here in the United States.
The session itself, as we said, you know, it was a different experience for you the second time around because obviously you learned a lot from the first session. How was the atmosphere? What politically were you pleased with how different factions worked together? Did the best come out of this session in terms of leadership, whether it's from your chamber or the other chamber?
Well, legislation, like I said earlier, is compromise, so you're always working with people that you may not work with in some circumstance, and you're against them on the other circumstance. So a lot of times I think the outside perception is that it's always Republicans versus Democrats. It's not always like that. Oftentimes bills pass with very high bipartisan numbers, so you might have a rural battle against an urban or suburban battle, and those people will get together and they'll be oppositional regardless of party, and then sometimes those coalitions break down for the next bill, and it might be rural and suburban versus urban, or fast growth schools versus slow growth, whatever.
Yeah.
It's just kind of all over the map. So you got to work with the Senate. We worked real hard this time. One of our goals was to work more closely with the Senate, which I think is one of the things that resulted in greater success for our legislation. But you've got to find a way to work across the aisle, whether that be to a different chamber or a different party. But in the end, it all works out. I think the most important bills get passed. You always have things that are left on the table undone, but we're a limited government state. It's hard to pass a bill, and so overall I think it's a good thing for Texas.
What's the focus now that the session is over for you?
Well, now we're out in the community trying to educate folks about what we did during the session and get reacquainted with my folks in the Chamber of Commerce and the different clubs and groups around the area, and spend more time with the family as well, and get my business back up and running. But
it is a citizen legislature, right?
Indeed, indeed. So I mean, it's been great to get back into the community and see folks and talk to them about their perception of what we did, and get a little time with the family as well.
Well, enjoy the different pace. Representative Dale, thanks for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. It's good to see you.
You too. And we're back with more right after the break.